They say a house holds memories. Mine holds a scream that no one ever heard. It started with a broken promise and ended with an echo that wears my son's face. And it all began the day I chose my new life over his. My marriage to Sarah didn't end with a bang. It dissolved slowly, like sugar in bitter coffee. The reason was a cliché as old as time. A third person who promised a sweetness I thought I'd lost. Her name was Jessica.
7 years ago, Sarah and I were just starting out. I had nothing but ambition, and our life was a tightrope walk over a pile of bills. After 2 years of scraping by, she gave me the one thing that felt truly ours. Our son, Leo. I remember the weight of him in my arms, a fragile, perfect thing I named Leo Michael Hayes.
It felt like Leo brought a tidal wave of good fortune with him. My business, a fledgling construction firm, suddenly took flight. Contracts landed on my desk as if from nowhere. Within a year, scraping by became a distant memory. We were more than comfortable. We were successful. When Leo turned 1, I looked at this life we had built and made a suggestion. He's still so young, I told Sarah. The economy's solid now. Why don't you stay home? Be a full-time mom. Look after the house. She saw the logic, or maybe she just saw the exhaustion in her own reflection. She agreed. From that day on, her world shrank to the size of our home, her purpose defined by our son, and the life I provided. But a perfect life, I learned, is a fragile illusion. By the time Leo was 4, Jessica had entered the picture. I didn't just have an affair, I torched my entire world for her. I brought her to my home, my sanctuary, and paraded my betrayal in front of the woman who had sacrificed her own path for mine. The marriage shattered, the divorce was brutal. I was determined to get custody of Leo. He was my only son, my namesake. Sarah fought, but she was at a disadvantage. For years, she'd been a homemaker with no independent income. The court sided with me. I won. I got my son. But my victory was immediately complicated by reality. My business required constant travel. I couldn't be a single father. Not really. So I did the only thing I could think of. I drove Leo upstate and left him with my parents. My mother's quiet disapproval was a tangible thing in the air between us. But what could she say? Sarah visited him, of course. My parents, despite everything, were still fond of her. They knew I was the one who had broken my vows. For 2 years, this was our broken normal. During that time, Jessica and I married. Then a call came. My father, whose health had been failing for years, took a turn for the worse. My mother had to be at the hospital around the clock, leaving no one to care for Leo. I had no choice. I had to bring my son home. Home to me and home to Jessica. I never imagined that this seemingly logical decision would be the one that would stop my 6-year-old son from ever growing up. Leo, even at 6, was a strangely quiet and composed child. He was old, more mature and somber than any of his peers. I suppose a child's world is a sensitive ecosystem. Knock down one tree, and the whole landscape changes. The divorce had changed him. He arrived as Jessica's pregnancy was rounding the 7-month mark. From the very first day, Leo was impeccably behaved. He cleared his own plate after dinner. He did his homework without being told. He never asked for new toys, never whined or threw a tantrum. His quiet compliance was a relief. I saw Jessica watching him, her expression unreadable, and I convinced myself her silence was acceptance. I handed my son's well-being over to her, trusting that everything would be fine. It was easier to believe that. The truth is, I needed to believe that.
But what I thought was acceptance was a deeply rooted, venomous resentment. Jessica hated him. She hated him for being a living, breathing reminder of my life with Sarah. He was the firstborn, the original, and she was the replacement.
When he first arrived, I'd encouraged him. Jessica is like your mom now, buddy. You can call her Mom. He did for a few days. His small voice would pipe up, Mom, and she would answer with a voice like chipped ice. Then he stopped. He reverted to calling her Jessica. I noticed, but I dismissed it. Kids are resilient, I told myself. He just needs time. It's a complicated situation. It was a simple explanation for a problem I didn't want to solve.
The real reason was far uglier. One morning, I left for a meeting before dawn. Leo, ever the little adult, woke up and saw Jessica in the kitchen. He wanted to help. With the limited vocabulary of a 6-year-old, he struggled to find the words. He just stood there, watching her, a silent little shadow.
She didn't notice him until she dropped a plastic strainer. With her large belly, bending over was a chore. Before she could manage, Leo scurried forward, his little hands grabbing it from the floor. He held it up to her, his face full of hope, and said, "I got it for you, Mom." He was looking for a single word of affirmation, a smile, anything.
What he received was a voice colder than a morgue slab. "Who is your mother?" she hissed, her voice low and sharp. "Who are you calling Mom? Don't you dare think that just because your father is here, you can call me that. I am not your mother. Do you understand me? You will call me Jessica. Now get out of my sight."
That was why. It wasn't that he didn't understand the adult world. It was that he understood it all too well. He wasn't allowed to call her Mom. Outwardly, nothing changed. Her demeanor around me remained neutral, a carefully constructed facade of tolerance. But behind my back, the real war had begun, and my son was its only casualty. Not long after, I had to go back upstate for a few days to handle things with my father's estate. That left Leo and Jessica alone in the house. It was the opportunity she had been waiting for. With me gone, the monster no longer had to hide in the closet. Her rage, fueled by the discomforts of late-stage pregnancy and her deep-seated hatred, needed a target. Leo was the perfect one. The slightest mistake was met with disproportionate punishment. If a piece of food fell from his plate onto the table, she would grab his hand and smash it down onto the mess. "Clean it up with your hand." One night, he was carrying his bowl of hot soup to the sink. It was too hot for his small hands. He yelped and dropped it, the bowl shattering on the tile floor, soup splashing everywhere. The next day, he limped to school. He spent the entire day sitting at his desk, refusing to move, refusing to play with the other kids at recess. He couldn't let his clothes get dirty because he knew what would happen if they did. This time, the punishment wouldn't be on the soles of his feet. It would be the hard edge of a wooden ruler against the backs of his legs, leaving deep purple bruises that he had to hide under his pants. Every night I would video call. I'd see Leo sitting dutifully at the table, doing his homework, a perfect little soldier. Jessica would be just off screen, a silent, menacing presence. I saw his silence and thought it was concentration. I didn't see her hand, hidden from the camera's view, pinching the soft skin of his arm, twisting it cruelly any time he dared to look up or shift his weight.
The moment I hung up, her torment would escalate. She'd take my ruler from my desk drawer and strike the back of his hands until they were swollen and red, until he couldn't hold a pencil properly. His crime? Accidentally smudging a single letter on his worksheet.
He never cried out. That was the thing about Leo. He had this incredible, heartbreaking resilience. He would bite down hard on his lip, his small body trembling, and let the tears stream silently down his face. He wouldn't make a sound. Before I left, I told him, "Be a good boy for Jessica, Leo. She has your baby brother or sister in her tummy, and they need to rest. You're a big brother now, so don't make any noise." He remembered my words. He obeyed them to the letter. But in Jessica's twisted perception, his silent endurance wasn't obedience. It was defiance, insolence, a challenge to her authority. The fact that he wouldn't scream, wouldn't break, only made her angrier. It made her hit him harder.
This wasn't just physical punishment. It was a methodical campaign of psychological warfare. One afternoon, his teacher, a Miss Albert, called Jessica. There had been an incident. Leo had hit another student. When the teacher asked why, Leo refused to speak. Jessica went to the school, a mask of weary concern on her face. She listened to the teacher, apologized profusely, and asked to take Leo home for the day.
The reason he hit the other boy? The kid had taunted him on the playground. "Your new mom is evil," the boy had sneered. "She's a wicked stepmother. Nobody wants to play with a stepmother's son." Leo wasn't being violent. He was defending her. He was defending the woman who was systematically destroying him. When they got home, her rage, which had been simmering under a veneer of social grace, exploded. She didn't hit him, not at first. She dragged him out onto the small second-floor balcony, the one off the master bedroom. It was a cold, miserable afternoon, and a steady drizzle was beginning to fall.
"You want to cause trouble for me?" she snarled, her voice a low growl. "Fine, stay out here and think about it." She slid the glass door shut, locking it from the inside. He was left out there with nothing. No food, no water, no shelter from the wind that was picking up, driving the cold rain sideways.
Later that evening, she left to visit a friend. As she walked past the balcony door, she glanced at Leo, who was shivering uncontrollably in the corner, and delivered a final, chilling warning. "I'm going out. You stay here." The sky opened up then, the drizzle turning into a downpour. He was soaked to the bone, his small body racked with tremors, cold and starving. He eventually crept downstairs to the front porch, hoping to see her car, to be let back into the warmth. He just waited. He waited all night.
Jessica didn't come home until the next morning. When she saw him, pale and shaking, his lips blue, a flicker of something. Annoyance, maybe panic, crossed her face. She remembered she'd locked a child outside all night. That day, Leo came down with a raging fever. When I got home, I found my son sick in bed, his breathing shallow and ragged. I was angry. "How did this happen?" I asked Jessica, my voice sharp. "You were supposed to be watching him." She was ready with an answer, her eyes welling with crocodile tears.
I don't know, Michael. He was playing outside and refused to come in when it started raining. Kids, you know how they are. I looked at Leo, delirious with fever, and my anger softened into worry. I was too concerned to question her story further. The thought that she would intentionally harm him was so monstrous, it was unthinkable.
The consequence was severe pneumonia. Leo had to be hospitalized. The doctor said the infection left him with weakened lungs, making him susceptible to coughs and colds for the rest of his life. For the rest of his very short life. Seeing him so fragile in that hospital bed, I felt a surge of guilt. Jessica saw it too and played her part perfectly, fussing over him, blaming herself for not being more careful. It's this pregnancy brain, she'd sigh. And I'm so tired. I have to look after this big house and a boy. I'm doing my best. Her words were a subtle poison, painting Leo as a burden and me as ungrateful for her sacrifice.
After that incident, even Jessica seemed pulled back. With me home, she had to be more careful. Leo, for his part, became even more withdrawn. He was a ghost in our house, moving silently from room to room. The only words he spoke were polite, formal greetings. The vibrant, happy child Sarah and I had raised was gone, replaced by this haunted, hollowed-out version.
But the peace was an illusion, a brief ceasefire. A few weeks later, I bought Leo a new soccer ball. He was thrilled, a rare flicker of childhood joy in his eyes. He held it tightly as if it were treasure. While playing in the hallway, he accidentally kicked it too hard, and it rolled into Jessica and my bedroom, stopping near her purse on the floor.
He stood at the door, staring at the ball, too afraid to go in and get it. He looked so sad, just turned to walk away. But as he did, he heard a thump and a clatter. Her purse had fallen, its contents spilling across the floor. Without a second thought, his ingrained desire to be good took over. He rushed in and knelt, carefully gathering up her lipstick, her keys, her wallet.
He noticed a small smudge on her leather wallet, and, with the earnest focus only a child possesses, he tried to rub it clean with his sleeve. That was the moment she walked in. "What are you doing?" she shrieked. Before he could explain, her foot lashed out, kicking him hard in the side and sending him sprawling. "Thief, you were trying to steal my money, you little rat. I knew it. I knew you were no good."
He didn't get a chance to deny it. She grabbed him by the collar, dragged him to his own bedroom closet, shoved him inside, and slammed the door, the lock clicking shut. Darkness swallowed him whole. He panicked. The small, enclosed space terrified him. "Jessica, let me out!" he screamed, his voice cracking with terror. "I'm scared. I didn't steal anything. Please, I'm scared." From the other side, her voice was muffled but full of venom. "Shut your mouth. You stay in there until your father gets home and sees what a little thief he's raising." She left him there. He was locked in that suffocating darkness for 5 hours. 5 hours alone with his terror. When I finally came home and found out, she spun her story. I checked her wallet. Nothing was missing. I scolded Leo lightly. "You don't go and go around without asking, son," and told Jessica to let it go. I didn't understand. I didn't see that the point wasn't about missing money. The point was the punishment itself. From that day on, Leo developed a crippling fear of the dark and enclosed spaces. He couldn't step into an elevator. He wouldn't even walk down a hallway at night unless a light was on. When he saw Jessica, he would shrink, his head bowing instantly, his eyes fixed on the floor. Sarah, his real mother, would visit him at school,
But Leo wouldn't dare approach her if Jessica was there to pick him up. He would just trail behind Jessica like a prisoner, his eyes pleading with his mother for a rescue that would never come. Jessica wouldn't allow them a moment alone, terrified Leo would expose her, and he was too terrified of her to try.
3 months after Leo came to live with us, Jessica gave birth to our son, my son. I named him Aaron. I thought a new baby would soften Jessica, would complete our family. I was a fool. A month after Aaron was born, a major project required me to go overseas for 2 months. I left my infant son and my broken 6-year-old in the care of a monster.
Caring for a newborn was overwhelming for her. The stress, the exhaustion, it all needed an outlet. Leo became her permanent lightning rod. She started cooking only once every few days, forcing him to eat cold, leftover meals. One afternoon, she was doing laundry while baby Aaron lay in his bassinet in the living room. The baby started crying. Leo, trying to help, went to the bassinet and gently rocked it, mimicking what he'd seen us do. When Aaron didn't stop crying, Leo saw a pacifier on the table and tried to give it to his brother. For some reason, the pacifier made the baby gag, and he spit up all the milk he had just been fed. Jessica walked in at that exact moment. Seeing the mess, she didn't ask what happened. She just saw Leo. She snatched Aaron up, and as soon as the baby was safe in her arms, she turned on Leo.
He saw the look in her eyes and immediately braced himself, arms crossed over his chest, hands balled into fists. He knew what was coming. She dragged him to his room, and this time she didn't use a ruler. She used the metal chain strap from one of her designer handbags. She beat him with it over and over, on his back, his shoulders, his arms. He stood there and took it, silent as a stone, because he knew he had made a mistake. When I came back 2 months later, the change in Leo was terrifying. He was thinner, paler. One hot afternoon, I saw him wearing a long-sleeved shirt. "Leo, take that off. You'll overheat," I said, reaching to help him. The moment my fingers brushed his arm, he cried out in pain and recoiled. Jessica was there in an instant, her voice sharp. "Don't touch him." She shot Leo a look that could kill. He mumbled something about falling on the stairs. I was tired from my trip. I let it go. I always let it go.
Later, after his bath, she cornered him. She backed him into the bathroom, slammed the door, and got in his face. "You say one word to your father and you're dead. Do you hear me?" To punctuate her threat, she shoved him hard. He stumbled backward, his side slamming into the sharp edge of the porcelain toilet bowl. He crumbled to the floor, clutching a pain that would leave a massive, dark bruise.
To her, he wasn't a child. He was an object, a thing to be kicked and broken. He thought he could survive until he grew up, but he was never given the chance. The final night, it all came to a head. Jessica put me in charge of watching baby Aaron, who was now learning to roll over. I was sitting on the floor, playing with some of Leo's old toys, keeping an eye on Aaron on the bed. I got distracted. A work email on my phone. Just for a minute. That's all it took. Aaron rolled too close to the edge. I saw him fall from the corner of my eye. It was like slow motion. I lunged, but I was too late. He hit the hardwood floor with a sickening thud, followed by a piercing shriek of pain. Jessica came running out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel. She saw Aaron on the floor, screaming. She didn't look at me. Her eyes found Leo. She snapped. She slapped me across the face, a hard, stinging blow. "You were supposed to watch him!"
Then she turned and lunged for Leo, who had been standing frozen in the doorway, her face contorted with pure, undiluted rage. This time, something in Leo broke. He wasn't going to be locked in the closet again. He bolted. He ran in sheer terror, Jessica hot on his heels, screaming obscenities.
He ran out of options, nowhere to hide. He made a desperate choice and scrambled out onto the second-floor balcony, the same one she'd locked him on months before. He was trapped. I was still with Aaron, trying to soothe him, my mind reeling. I heard her scream, "You want to die? Fine, I'll kill you myself."
He was cornered. The fear, the darkness, the memory of being trapped there. It was too much. He climbed over the railing, clinging to the outside just to get away from her. She reached for him, her hands like claws. "You're not getting away!" she shrieked. I don't know what went through his mind in that final second. Maybe he thought he could fly. Maybe he just wanted it all to end. He let go. I ran out just in time to see her, staring down, her face a mask of shock. I looked over the edge, and I saw my son, my Leo, lying on the stone patio below, a broken, still thing in a pool of spreading darkness. His body was twisted, but his eyes were wide open, staring right back up at her, lifeless.
Leo's death was officially ruled a tragic accident, a terrible, unfortunate incident. Jessica told the police she was in the bathroom when she heard the baby cry, ran out, and saw Leo fall. I, numbed with shock and grief, corroborated the timeline. She was the only witness. And of course, she would never tell the truth. Why would she? She got away with it.
After the funeral, Sarah, his real mother, asked if she could pack up Leo's room. She wanted a few keepsakes. Numbly, I agreed. While sorting through his things, she found a drawing book filled with bizarre, disturbing pictures. Page after page showed a small, sad-faced boy being tormented by a witch with a snarling red mouth and long, sharp teeth. "Michael, what is this?" she asked, her voice trembling as she showed me the drawings. "Why would a little boy draw something so awful?" I looked at him, but I didn't see. I refused to see. He was a kid, Sarah. Kids have weird imaginations. My denial was another brick in the wall I was building around my own guilt. My mother's intuition was screaming at her, a silent alarm I chose to ignore.
For Jessica, Leo's death was a problem solved. The obstacle was removed. The house, the family, my future, it was all hers now, for her and her son, Aaron. But there is a law older than any human court. They call it karma, cause and effect, the reaping and the sowing. It has no loopholes, it has no mercy, and its memory is perfect. The debt she owed was about to be collected. About 3 months after Leo died, the haunting began. It started subtly. One evening, Jessica was feeding Aaron in his high chair. The baby, who was now over a year old, was eating happily one moment, and the next he was choking, his face turning purple, his mouth wide open in a silent gag. He clawed at his own throat, unable to breathe. Jessica rushed him to the hospital. The doctors saved him, but they were baffled. They could find no obstruction, no medical reason for the episode. The next morning, as Jessica was bathing him, she froze in horror. There, on Aaron's tiny neck, were the faint, purple imprints of 2 small hands. A child's hands. Her mind reeled. Besides Aaron, she thought the only child in this house was Leo. She dismissed it. It was impossible. He was dead. That was only the beginning. One night, I was woken by Jessica shaking me, her face pale. "Did you hear that?" she whispered.
I heard nothing. "It's a laugh," she stammered. "A little boy's laugh." I told her she was dreaming, that she was just stressed. But she heard it again and again in the following nights. A faint, childish giggle echoing from the empty nursery that used to be Leo's room. Then things began to move. She'd put Aaron down for a nap in his crib and returned to find him sleeping soundly on the floor of the hallway. One terrifying afternoon, she searched the house in a panic, only to find him lying peacefully asleep on the cold tiles of the second-floor balcony, the very spot where Leo fell. She knew then. She knew Leo's spirit was in the house, and it was tormenting her. She became desperate, seeking out psychics and charlatans, spending a fortune on useless charms and rituals. Nothing worked. The haunting only grew worse. The entity in her house was too strong, too focused, fueled by a rage she herself had created. The end for Aaron came swiftly, and with a horrifying poetic justice. Jessica had put him to bed and left her purse on the nightstand beside him. When she came back from the bathroom, she was met with a sight that shattered her sanity. The metal chain strap from her purse, the same one she had used to beat Leo, was wrapped tightly around her son's neck. He wasn't moving. His little hands and feet were cold. His breath was a shallow, thready whisper. He died on the way to the hospital.
The loss of her son broke Jessica completely. She stormed into Leo's old room, which we had kept untouched, and screamed at his picture on the wall. "Are you happy now? You took him! Give me back my son! Give him back!" She swept the picture and the incense bowl off the shelf, smashing them on the floor. Her grief morphed into something else, a terrifying possession. My business was collapsing. My family was destroyed, and my wife was losing her mind. She began to exhibit strange, childish behaviors. I'd find her late at night, at midnight exactly, sitting in front of the TV watching the same cartoons Leo used to love. She started taking Leo's old school books and sitting in his room, meticulously doing his homework. I once found her asleep in his bed, clutching the old soccer ball I had bought him. She would call me Dad. She'd cry for milk and throw tantrums when she was hungry. She took scissors and cut up all of her own expensive clothes, then tried to wear Leo's. She became a 6-year-old boy trapped in a woman's body. The only person she seemed to like, the only one she would be calm around, was Sarah. When his real mother visited, Jessica would smile and be docile.
This went on for months. I had her on tranquilizers, but they barely contained the madness. One night, I came home to an unnervingly silent house. I found her note on the kitchen counter. Then I saw the open balcony door. She had jumped from the exact same spot. She landed on the stone patio below, her body broken, but her face was frozen in a mask of ultimate terror. Her eyes were wide, bulging, staring back up at the balcony as if she had seen something unimaginable in her final moments. The police later pieced it together from the ramblings in her suicide note. That night, heavily sedated, she had dreamt she heard Aaron crying. She followed the sound, sleepwalking, out to the balcony. There, she saw him, the ghost of Leo, standing right at the edge of the railing, holding the ghost of baby Aaron, dangling him over the side. Forgetting they were already dead, she lunged, desperate to save her son. As her fingers were about to touch them, they vanished. Her momentum carried her forward, over the railing. In her final, terrifying seconds, as she clung to the edge, she looked down and saw Leo's ghost clinging to her legs, pulling her down, his face split by a wide, cheerful, chilling grin. "It's fun down here, Jessica," his voice echoed in her mind. "Come play with me and Aaron." She lost her grip. She fell.
After her death, I was completely alone, a hollowed-out man in a house of ghosts. One day, clearing out Leo's room for the final time, I sat at his small desk. I picked up one of his old notebooks. As I flipped through it, my heart stopped. On the very last page, written in a shaky, childish scrawl, were the words, "Today, Jessica hit me. It hurts a lot." My blood ran cold. I tore through all of his books, and I found them. Little notes hidden on the last pages of every single one. "When is Dad coming home? Jessica didn't hit me so hard today. Dad, Jessica doesn't love me. Today she locked me in the closet. I'm scared. Mommy, save me. I don't want to be here anymore. The witch is real. She has red teeth." Then I remembered. The teacher, Miss Albright, had called me once when I was out of town. She said she'd found bruises on Leo. He told her he fell. She told me just to keep an eye on it. I was busy, overwhelmed. I forgot. I completely forgot. I scrambled to my old security server, desperately trying to recover the deleted footage from the weeks I was away. And then I saw it all. Every slap, every push, the ruler, the handbag chain, the closet, and the final damning footage of the balcony. I saw her stand there as he fell. I saw her watch my son die. I was a man who had everything and lost it all because of his own blindness and selfishness. I had been living in the same house as my tormented child and had noticed nothing. I tried to join them. I tried to end my own life, but I was found in time, a failure even at that. I sold the house, gave away everything, and just disappeared. Now I live alone, waiting for the end. Child abuse is not a monster that appears from the shadows. It wears a human face. It smiles. It makes excuses. It lives under your own roof. I was the adult. I was the father. My selfishness created the monster, and my negligence fed it. And my son paid the price. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but for Leo, it wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, a terrible, absolute justice delivered by the small, gentle hands I once held in my own.